There are some huge announcements coming out of Mar-a-Lago. Names are being thrown around that are so exciting. RFK Jr., I'm going to share some stories about Don Jr. and some predictions he's making. To help me go through this, I have Antonio. Antonio, thank you so much for joining me.
Steve, always a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so the last time you and I spoke, you were actually trying to get out of Venezuela because of the rigged elections with Maduro. Now you're back in the States and Donald Trump has won. What was your reaction to seeing Trump become president?
I couldn't be happier, man. Not only Trump, but all the Avengers that he's assembling. I feel that great years are coming. And I also feel that it was a landslide. Like, we were expecting a much closer race. I don't know why. I couldn't understand the other side, but it was quite clearly a landslide. And those missing 20 million votes, there's some questions that need to be raised there as well. But super happy, and the future's looking bright.
Yeah, I agree. One of the people that you and I have talked about offline is RFK Jr. I did 1,500 videos to help Trump get elected, over 100 videos on RFK Jr. Now Trump has named him the Secretary of Health and Human Services. What are your thoughts on what this means for America and making America healthy again?
I think that he's definitely the right pick. What I love about RFK is that he's not silent against Big Pharma's corruption. Like, just, I think the day that he was announced, he tweeted that he was going to war with the FDA because they're actively suppressing natural remedies that could be good for human health. And he said two things: preserve your records and pack your bags. And the reason I feel that he said that was that the last time I was on your show, we also touched on the revolving door between the FDA and big pharmaceutical companies. There's crazy statistics, like since 2000, every single one of the FDA commissioners has then went on to become an employee or a member of the board of a big pharmaceutical company. And they did a study where they tracked all the medical reviewers, which are the people that analyze the drug harm, benefit, and approved drugs. And it was a number, I think it was like 57% of them then went on, in a 10-year period, went on to work for big pharmaceutical companies or serve in the board. So I think RFK is really tackling this corruption head on, and he's in the forefront of what big chemical companies and the FDA are doing in order to really undermine the health of the American people. So I couldn't be happier with the pick.
Yeah, I just found that tweet. Let me pull that up. I'll read it. FDA's war on public health is about to end. This includes its aggressive suppression of psychedelics, peptides, stem cells, raw milk, hyperbaric therapies, chelating compounds, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, vitamins, clean food, sunshine, exercise, nutraceuticals, and anything else that advances human health and can't be patented by pharma. If you work for the FDA and are a part of this corrupt system, I have two messages for you: preserve your records and pack your bags. So he seems pretty serious about cleaning up the FDA, holding big pharma accountable. Of course, we want good drugs, modern medicine, but we also want access to some of this other stuff. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I had a terrible back injury after a car accident, and it's only stem cells that have helped my injured back. Wow. It cost almost $17,000 in chiropractic and other doctors. It was not giving me the relief. And so to be able to do stem cells, well, you used to have to travel to Colombia or Mexico or Panama. So to be able to have access to this stuff is a big deal. And I hope that he will shut that down. But having access to alternative medicine that Big Pharma demonizes is just huge.
No, it's huge. And the main reason that they demonize it is quite clearly what RFK said in the tweet, is something that they can't patent. What happens with like psychedelics, for example, they're very easily accessible. One can grow a set of magic mushrooms in their yard, and Big Pharma can't really make that much money off that. So anything that they can't patent, anything that's naturally occurring, either they try and patent or they simply go after it head on. So you could only take their medicine.
Yeah, no, that's it's one of their common strategies. Let me show you something else here. This is over on Vigilant News Network. But basically, Donald Trump Jr. is saying Big Pharma's time of poisoning us is over. He goes to list all the reasons why he and his father back Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to come in and make science again, to make the FDA the gold standard of medical research. But let me read this part to you because it really stood out to me. Don Jr. says, Big Pharma is going to spend a lot of money, like you wouldn't believe, trying to stop Bobby Kennedy from exposing what's going on with Big Pharma. The poisoning of our kids and our loved ones for years. They've gotten away with it for far too long. It doesn't work. The wealthiest country in the world can't also be the most unhealthy because of what we're doing to our children. Now, I don't think most people know that some of the biggest fines in American history have been Big Pharma companies that were putting out medications that were killing people or injuring them or causing addiction, and they knew it, and they still pressed it because they were so driven by profits. What are your thoughts on Don Jr. throwing his support behind RFK Jr.?
I couldn't. I feel that it couldn't be any better, because what he said, Big Pharma is actively poisoning our kids. Why? Because there's nothing more profitable than a sick child. I feel like for that reason, we're in the most unhealthy place we've ever been. Obesity rates are up like 88% since 2019. New cancer rates are up by 30% in just 8 years. Heart disease, which is the leading cause of death, has seen an alarming uptick in the past 10 years. And all of this is because we clearly have a healthcare system that favors profit over people. The FDA hasn't been held accountable all these years of government. Three-letter agencies, we saw them weaponized against Trump, but they've also been weaponized against the American people. And the regulators are in bed with the companies that they're supposed to be regulating. So I think that this Avengers team can really help, and there's hope in the horizon with this new organization. But I feel at the same time a bit scared, because these organizations are so corrupt, they're so powerful, they're so sneaky, that I don't know if just 4 years will be enough. And that is also why, aside from backing these candidates, I also feel that it's important that we take health into our own hands, that we do our research, we question the status quo, we see what's working for other people, and we make up our mind. Because even with RFK, even with the Trump organization, there's still nefarious forces, as you said, spending billions and billions of dollars to trying to undermine the power of the organization and to trying to keep the status quo as is.
Yeah.
So that's what I fear.
Well, it's going to be interesting. There's going to definitely be an uphill battle. Like you said, these corporations, they've got billions of dollars with a B on the line, and they are not just going to go into the night quietly. They're going to fight in order to stay in power, keep the medicines that they want in place. But at the end of the day, I think most people appreciate modern medicine, but we also want to be told the truth. We want to know about supplements. We want to know about exercise routines, red light therapy, stem cells, you name it. Another thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on is Big Pharma, Democrats, people who have maybe blindly just trusted that Big Pharma is doing all the research. They're all scared because RFK Jr. says he wants more data on vaccines. He wants more data on the long-term effects of different medications. But at the same time, from everything that I'm reading, his books, his Twitter posts, articles, he's all about giving people medical freedom. What are your thoughts on him wanting medical freedom for Americans?
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about him the most, is that he really advocates for this health freedom. I think that we need to let the free markets do their thing, give people the right data so that they can make informed decisions. We need to stop suppressing alternative medicine just to benefit big pharma's profits. And I mean, Steve, we saw what they did during COVID, what the FDA and the CDC did. They suppressed anything that could have potentially been helpful and labeled it as misinformation, rather than actually seeing the data, gathering all the anecdotal evidence that was out there and trying to find a solution that was affordable and accessible to most people. The only solution, or the only real solution that they pushed, was the one that they invented, was the one that they had patented, and the one that was going to make them the most money. Even now, I think there's a drug called Paxlovid that they give for treatment of COVID. I think it's like a 5-day prescription, and they charge 1.6K for a 5-day prescription. You're really telling me that you're trying to save as many people's lives as possible, and then you charge 1.6K for a 5-day prescription? I think that if we take the alternative route, we don't give people the health freedom, we don't give people the data, and we give all the power and our health, we keep it in the hands of Big Pharma, we're going to see a bunch of Paxlovids, because unfortunately, we need to inform ourselves and decide what's best for us, knowing that these organizations are not the gold standard that we want them to be, and they don't have our best interests at heart. Hopefully they will be, but I think that's why RFK is really advocating for this health freedoms, because it's not going to be as easy for them once they're really informed about what's going on.
Yeah. I've noticed Elon Musk has been trolling Dr. Fauci on Twitter saying, we know where you are. We are going to be auditing you. Hold your emails. Don't go too far. I think a lot of people would like to see him investigated, better understand his role in funding COVID, as well as the cover-up of COVID. But we'll see. But you're right, that Paxlovid, $1,600 if you get COVID. And meanwhile, ivermectin, which has now been proven to have effects, is around $3, per pill. So much different than what Big Pharma is trying to. It's almost robbery. Do you remember hearing the story about that Silicon billionaire? He came in, he bought the rights to the EpiPen, and then he bumped the price like 900%, and then ends up going to jail and getting beat up in jail because people are like, hey, you dirtbag, you're like literally gouging us by 900% so that you guys can make a profit off of my kid. It'll be really interesting to see what the outcome of that is. Speaking of Silicon billionaires, David Sachs runs multiple large companies out in Silicon Valley. He and a few other billionaires of California helped back Donald Trump in winning. He has said it's time to block Big Pharma from advertising on TV. Only America and New Zealand do that. We're both some of the sickest countries in the world. He then goes on to detail how they are about 80% of the ad revenue of CNN, MSNBC, CBS News, ABC, Fox News, and BBC. How are we ever going to get the truth about Big Pharma and modern medicine if the very gatekeepers of information are bought off by Big Pharma?
I don't think that's possible. I think that's what we clearly saw during COVID, how they could very easily manipulate the narrative. Why? Because they're the ones that are in charge. As you said, 80% of their revenues come from big pharmaceutical companies. So the real agenda that they're pushing is an agenda that quite simply benefits big pharma. It could be, and I don't think, and big pharma has one priority, as a lot of companies do, and that's their bottom line. They're going to do whatever increases their bottom line the most. It could be a pandemic. It could be treatment for depression. It could be antidepressants that are addictive. And if you have control of the media, there's this beautiful quote that says that if you control the media, you control the minds of the people. I don't think it's that big nowadays because of people like you, Steve, that have other points of view and have independent media, and they can question what's being pushed in the mainstream media. But imagine just 10 years ago when we didn't have this, what could they do? So thankfully we have independent media like you. But yes, something needs to be done here. Clearly the media is going to fight against this because they're making so much money with big pharma. But it's banned in other countries. It's not the end of the world. They could look for alternative revenue sources, and it's not in the benefit of the American people. And that's what the government really needs to look out for.
Okay. I mean, you and your company, Black Forest Supplements, you guys know probably better than other people. You've had to, use legal tactics in order to keep the American people having access to certain things. For example, you guys have NMN, which is good for helping people with energy, weight loss. I'm always fascinated by the human body, right? We have 35 trillion cells. All of those cells have mitochondria. They all have NAD, but that NAD is depleting. Every day you're alive, you have less in your body, and then we want to get more back into our body. So tell me about NMN for my audience.
Hey, what happened with NMN? I'm super happy because in just 2 days of Trump winning, we've been fighting the FDA for around 2 years now, us alongside the Natural Products Association, because they're trying to monopolize NMN, turn it from a supplement to a drug. You mentioned NAD, Steve. It's the best NAD booster there is in the market. As we age, NAD levels decline, and scientists from Harvard realized that if we're able to keep those NAD levels high, we age more gracefully, we have more energy. Some even say that we could reverse aging. NAD essential for the functioning of the 37 trillion cells in our body. It's just, some people call it the limitless pill. So this compound, so revolutionary, Big Pharma wanted to turn it into the first anti-aging prescription drug. We partnered up with the MPA and other companies that sell NMN in order to do a class action lawsuit against the FDA. And just 2 days, I don't know if it's a coincidence. I don't know if the FDA is a bit scared now that we're waging war against them with this new organization. But a court ruled that FDA was unfairly enforcing rules on NMN products. That doesn't mean that we've won just yet, but it means that they can't go after any company selling NMN until the case is cleared. And with the new organization, I think there's a lot of hope in the horizon. I feel that NMN is going to be available, and you'll see it back on Amazon and back everywhere sooner rather than later. I don't think that people like RFK are going to allow Big Pharma to patent something that's so revolutionary. But yeah, happy, man. Happy because of the new organization. Happy for the news, and hopefully we'll win this class action sooner rather than later. But it took the will of a lot of people, a lot of companies, and thankfully the people decided well, and we're seeing the country change even before Trump's taken office. So super happy, ecstatic, and happy that NMN, I feel, is going to be in the hands of the American people for the years to come.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I hope that hope that goes through. I've enjoyed using NMN myself, so I appreciate you guys fighting that battle. I know we're not near Black Friday, but you had mentioned to me wanting to do an early Black Friday offer for my community.
Yeah, I love your audience, Steve. As they know, thousands of them take NMN, huge sponsor of the show. So I wanted to give them early access to our Black Friday promo, which is like the best promo we have year round. So they could try NMN. So that promo is buy one, get one free. And they could go to our site and really not only take NMN and feel the benefits from, as I said, something that Big Pharma wanted to turn into the first prescription anti-aging drug. So that's how, if that doesn't tell you how powerful it is, I don't know what will. But you also help us fight these legal battles, really go against corrupt organizations like the FDA, try to keep them in check, being a small player that we are, but we really care for the American people and them having access to beneficial health products and them being informed about what's out there rather than just taking whatever Big Pharma says you need to take. So happy for that win, happy for the Black Friday promo, happy to be here. I'm just thankful.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, some of my other sponsors, they're doing, 15% off, 20% off. So buy one, get one free. That's very generous. I'm going to put a direct link down below so people can learn more and participate in that if they'd like to. But this final story I wanted to go over. So the New York Times, they try to do this hit piece on RFK Jr., right? And they end up making his case for them. So let me just read this from the New York Times. Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops. I think everybody knows what Fruit Loops are, right? As an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than the US version. But he was wrong. The ingredients list is roughly the same, although Canada's has natural coloring made from blueberries and carrots, while the US product contains red dye 40, yellow 5, blue 1, as well as butylated hydroxytoluene, or BHT, and a lab-made chemical that is used for freshness according to the ingredient label. I mean, so they're like, I don't know why he's mad that up in Canada, they're not using all of these artificial colors that lead to ADHD, depression. One of them is literally a petroleum-based poison to make things yellow and orange. And meanwhile, Canada's like, why don't we just use blueberries for the color and carrots? There's, billions of carrots on planet Earth. And then they list off all these artificial ingredients and then say RFK Jr. is crazy for wanting to remove those artificial ingredients and the food dyes that make our kids sick.
No, the way the media is going after RFK is quite clearly laughable. If you just pull up his Wikipedia page, they go after him hard, anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, any, label that they always say when someone's trying to shed light on these topics. You talk about chemicals, and one of the chemicals that really impresses me the most that's still out there, it's the second most commonly used pesticide in the US. RFK has really talked about this in length, and it's atrazine. It's what Alex Jones mentions. Oh, it's turning the frogs gay. It turns out they did a study. They took 40 male frogs and they gave them atrazine every day, sort of around the levels that we're using as pesticides. And 30 of the frogs were chemically castrated, and 10% of these frogs turned into female frogs, and they lay fertile eggs. And we're exposing our kids, we're exposing ourselves to this on a daily basis. There's not a lot of studies to know what can happen with humans, but we know exactly what happens with frogs, and that's out there.
Yeah. Well, he said in a podcast, every American has the right to clean air and clean water. In fact, there's the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, and yet our water has these forever chemicals that he is going to go after and clean up. So I'm just so excited for him and Trump to officially get in at the end of January and make these changes. Well, Antonio, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for everything that you're doing for my community. When a lot of sponsors dropped me for backing Trump and RFK Jr., you guys stepped up. So I really appreciate that. Your offer of buy one, get one free is very generous. I'm going to put a link down below. I have my bottle of NMN right here so that I remember to take it. If I don't, it's out of sight, out of mind. And so I just keep it right where I keep my water. But thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
I appreciate you, Steve. Happy to be on, happy for this new organization. And as I said, guys, buy one, get one free. I appreciate you guys for backing our company as well. You're a big reason why we're able to fight the powers that be. And thank you for having me on, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yep, absolutely.